There is mounting evidence that whether intentional or not, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are quietly laying the foundation for America's first strategic Bitcoin reserve. This isn't just one man stacking sats for shareholders. This is starting to look like a national operation. Think about it. Eric Trump calls Saylor a national treasure. Tom Lee recently floated that the government could just buy MicroStrategy outright. Trump himself promised the US will never sell its seized Bitcoin. And when you look at what's happening in DC, the government seizing Bitcoin, taking stakes in companies like Intel, nationalizing defense contractors. The writing may be on the wall. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is policy in action. So the real question is MicroStrategy just a corporate treasury strategy, or is it the honeypot for America's strategic Bitcoin reserve? Well, let's find out. Sunday!
You said Wall Street's going to embrace it, and that is true, but still, it's limited. I've been talking to these RIAs here. Many of them are very interested in Bitcoin, but a lot of them have questions when I walk around and say, what do you want to hear from Michael Saylor? They say, well, we're still concerned about suitability issues. We still have issues about recommending them to our clients. This is still a real concern. What do you say to those who are still concerned about suitability?
The only asset endorsed by a president of the United States in 50 years is Bitcoin. I mean, Go back in the last 200 years in the history of the country. And I think if you go to the founding fathers, they wrote in the Constitution that money is silver and gold coin. And then at some point there was a chicken in every pot, and maybe with the founding of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we endorsed everybody to single family home ownership. But in the 21st century, you have just one asset, Bitcoin. The president saying, don't sell your Bitcoin, saying more than that, saying the United States won't sell its Bitcoin. And so everything else you put your client into, if the US government seized any other security that you sold to a client, if they seized any collectible, any art, any real estate, they would sell it. The only thing that the US government won't sell if they are to seize it is Bitcoin.
They won't sell any Bitcoin that they seize. Listen closely to the clips today, okay? Now let's get started again. Let's go with Giga Chad.
I don't think we'll get all of it. I don't think in the range of 3 to 5 or 3 to 7% is too much. BlackRock has got more than
I
us.
just wonder. I was thinking about the mental exercise of if you could actually own all of it, like if you would even, bless you, if you would want it.
Well, you know, we started and we had very little, and Bitcoin was 10,000, and now Bitcoin's more than 100,000, and 97% of the Bitcoin is worth 10 times as much, and somebody else, not us, has it. Right. So as a practical matter, what we're doing is we're monetizing and powering up this.
I totally get it. I just mean, if you owned all of it, would that change the entire behavior of Bitcoin?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to own all of it.
I wouldn't want to.
We want everybody else to have their piece.
Too.
The nice thing there is there's 160 companies that are capitalizing on Bitcoin in the public market, up from about 60 last year. So the Bitcoin treasury movement's exploding. And companies like MetaPlanet in Japan and Capital B in France and Smarter Web in the UK. And then there's a raft of them in the US, Anthony Pompliano's company, you know, and 21. They're all capitalizing. The big idea is I take digital capital, I issue digital credit, and a digital credit instrument can either be longer duration or it can be higher performance. We're offering 9% dividend yield with Stretch. The average money market's 4.2% dividend yield. No one would ever want to give a 9% perpetual yield in a bond that's backed by real estate or backed by gold or backed by any conventional fiat asset. But we're investing in Bitcoin.
It's not just a flex, it's a signal. Saylor's not talking about being a heavy bag holder. He's talking about a nation-state level share of the Bitcoin supply.
Backing the dollar with Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think you back the dollar by doing something economically rational. So when the United States actually purchased Louisiana, and we expanded the country and doubled the size of it, we backed the dollar. And when Seward bought Alaska and we found $1 trillion of oil underneath it, we backed the dollar. And when when we developed the port of New York City, and we engaged in international commerce, we backed the dollar. So the country's got to look to the future, and the future of the country is in cyberspace, and Bitcoin is, in essence, cyber Manhattan. So the way you back the dollar is you buy Manhattan for pieces of paper and trinkets, and you buy it before it's worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, just like the Dutch bought New York for $50 worth of plastic beads. And so I think that it's right in front of us. The United States owns the majority of the gold in the world. The U.S. federal government owns 28% of the land, in the United States. The U.S. government should own the majority of the Bitcoin in the world. Bitcoin is capital. Bitcoin is not currency. Gold has been used as capital. It's not currency anymore. The very simple thing that the U.S. ought to do is they ought to sell the gold and buy Bitcoin with it and buy 20% of the Bitcoin network. It's very simple. Just swap the gold for Bitcoin. If anybody actually swaps out their treasury bills for Bitcoin, then the U.S. is going to own it all. It's kind of like just getting Alaska or the Louisiana Purchase for free. They could pretty much have 20% of the network for free overnight just with a swap. They could even print the money. They could buy it for next to nothing. The only alternative to the treasury bill for anybody is Bitcoin. And so just do that, and Bitcoin becomes the world reserve capital network, and the U.S. will own both sides of the equation. They'll own the currency and the capital.
Altogether, that's about $106 trillion he's pitching, 5 times what Senator Lummis's bill called for. And he even said there's only room for one nation state to make this move, and his bet, the United States.
Room for one nation state to buy up 20% of the network. And obviously, I think it should be the United States. I think it will be the United States. It's a way for us to enrich ourselves and emerge as a creditor nation in a matter of a decade. It's also a way for us to ensure that we're the economic leaders in cyberspace and the digital economy for the next 100 years. And if we do that, every one of our allies will follow us, and then all of our enemies will end up having to buy into the network once it passes 10 or 20 million a coin, and they will enrich.
Okay, now, let that sink in. While Jamie Dimon and his finance nerds have been screaming Ponzi scheme, Michael Saylor is literally laying out the blueprint for America to corner the Bitcoin market. This isn't a corporate strategy anymore. This is a speculative attack on the dollar, and he's aligning it with U.S. national interest. And if you think this is just Saylor being crazy Uncle Michael, check out what the Trump's family has been saying, specifically Eric Trump, and really pay attention here.
I've known Michael Saylor for 20 years. And by the way, if you want to talk about a great champion for this industry, it's Michael Saylor. That guy deserves all the credit in the world. There's very few people who are smarter, and there are very few people who are better cheerleaders for an industry that clearly he believes in. He's a national treasure to the United States, and frankly, he's a national treasure to this world. And by the way, just sidetrack, his patience is absolutely remarkable. Has anybody seen that mashup where an interviewer asks him the same question over and over, and he kind of looks down, he sighs, takes a big breath, and then he answers the question that he's answered 100 times?
Why don't you break this down simply for people like me that don't fully understand it?
Okay.
If you went out the yield curve on bonds, or if you went in.
It's happening as all of these new companies.
So let's just start at the beginning, if you don't mind, explaining what is it?
Sure.
The guy is a remarkable guy. He's an amazing guy, and he's truly a national treasure. But I think I even said to Michael Saylor in the early years, Michael, I don't get this stuff. I know you love Bitcoin. I don't get it. If I can't feel it, if I can't see it.
National treasure. That's the same language they use for the Declaration of Independence. You don't call a software CEO a national treasure unless you're signaling something bigger. I don't know. I just feel like you don't call a software CEO a national treasure unless you're signaling something bigger. Now let's try to connect the dots. Trump promises to never sell seized Bitcoin. He even hints at where things are going, and we'll be getting to that later.
The federal government has almost 210,000 Bitcoin, or 1% of the total supply that will ever exist. But for too long, our government has violated the cardinal rule that every Bitcoiner knows by heart. Never sell your Bitcoin, right? That's right, isn't it, huh? That's right. How did I figure that one? Never sell your Bitcoin. And so, as the final part of my plan today, I am announcing that if I am elected, it will be the policy of my administration, United States of America, to keep 100% of all the Bitcoin the U.S. government currently holds or acquires into the future. We'll keep 100%. I hope you do well, please. This will serve in effect as the core of the strategic national Bitcoin stockpile. As you know, most of the Bitcoin currently held by the United States government was obtained through law enforcement action. You know that. They took it from you. Let's take that guy's life. Let's take his family, his house, his Bitcoin. We'll turn it into Bitcoin. It's been taken away from you because that's where we're going now. That's where this country is going. It's a fascist regime. And so as I take steps to transform that vast wealth into a permanent national asset to benefit all Americans, today I repeat my pledge to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served. It's enough. It's enough.
Trump pledges to make the U.S. the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and this isn't a coincidence, and Saylor is right in the middle of it.
But as well as all of the Bitcoin luminaries and legends here, you have legends in this room. They really are. Congratulations. Would the legends please stand up? Oh, everyone's standing anyway. That's nice. I used to say, sit down, everybody, sit down. But it's nice when they stand, including Tyler and Cameron. Do you know who that is? Winklevoss. These are great guys. They look like male models with a brain, you know? They're male models with a big, beautiful brain. Michael Saylor is here.
All right, now here is the dark side of the story. Civil asset forfeiture. It doesn't require a new law. It doesn't need a vote. It's the same playbook they used for Ross Ulbricht's Bitcoin, Binance's $4.3 billion settlement, and not, Tornado Cash and their developers. If the government wants your Bitcoin and you're centralized, they don't buy it. They take it.
If there is more Bitcoins held with these third-party custodians, what risk does that pose, having greater supply held by fewer large institutions? Does that increase the risk of seizure and confiscation like we've seen with gold? And is that not exactly what Bitcoiners don't want to happen?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think that when the Bitcoin is held by a bunch of crypto anarchists who aren't regulated entities, who don't acknowledge government or don't acknowledge taxes or don't acknowledge reporting requirements, that increases the risk of seizure. If a country in desperation, if China knew that there were underground crypto traders with billions of dollars of Bitcoin in their midst that didn't pay taxes, the Chinese would probably try to shut that down, and that's what they do. So normally, the risk is greater when they're unregulated private entities that are perceived to be holding the asset. When you have regulated public entities like BlackRock and Fidelity and JP Morgan and State Street Bank holding the asset, well, all the lawmakers and all the law enforcement arms, they're invested in those entities. Right? So there's no way that all the senators and all the congressmen are going to seize the assets from Fidelity and BlackRock or Vanguard, because that's where all their retirement money is invested. So the asset moving from private to public hands and moving into regulated entities, it does a bunch of things. It decreases the volatility. It decreases the risk of loss. It decreases who do you trust more as a custodian, FTX or Fidelity? right? Or Vanguard or State Street, right? And if you walk down the street and you said, would you put all your family's money in an offshore entity without a headquarters run by 5 dudes without an auditor? Or would you put it with a bank that's too big to fail in the US? Right? Like at the end of the day, you have an OG crypto community that's very hardcore about it, but if you look at where all the money is, 99.9% of the money is actually in the traditional economy. And in the war for the future of money, the war is going to be won with money, right? I mean, right, at the end of the day, Bitcoin is capital. Who's going to actually decide who's the winner or the loser? The people with the capital. And so where's the capital? It's at Vanguard, Fidelity, State Street, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. They're all regulated entities of sorts. So when Bitcoin is held by those entities, it becomes regular and normal. And, people would no more think about seizing that than they think about seizing a building in the middle of Manhattan or seizing, the S&P Spider assets. Why would you do that? That's just the capital that you built the country on.
So let's be honest. MicroStrategy is too big to ignore, too centralized to resist. If Washington wants to flip MicroStrategy from corporate treasury to national reserve, it can almost happen overnight. And that's why self-custody is national defense. Don't let your conviction become their custody. Still think it sounds far-fetched? Well, let's talk precedent or precedent, whatever you prefer. But the US government just took a 10% stake in Intel. That's pretty stupid if you ask me, and our Commerce Secretary admitted that the Pentagon is thinking about seizing stakes in defense contractors. Howard Lutnick said the government will claim university patents funded by taxpayer dollars. And Trump, he's basically nationalizing as many private companies as it takes to defeat socialism. This is not socialism. This is just the state deciding what's strategic and pulling it into their orbit. I mean, it's socialism, but it's also, damn it, what's that thing called again? Holy crap! Oh yeah, that's the one. So when Tom Lee says,
I think I heard you on a show being asked about how the United States might acquire Bitcoin and going out into the market. I mean, that would definitely move the price. So didn't you say something about the possibility that the government would actually instead try to, let's say, buy a company that has a lot of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that makes a lot of sense. I think the day the U.S. says they want to acquire 1 million Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's price is going to go up parabolically.
Right.
Because how is the U.S. going to buy it? I mean, they can't, if you know their wallet, you're going to see every buy, and it's going to become a national pastime for everybody because they're a long buyer. I think it's going to be easier for them to buy large holders of Bitcoin. Maybe even give tax amnesty, right? That's why they're saying it's tax-free. We won't tax capital gains. They'll do everything they can to try to acquire Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Maybe, but MicroStrategy has a sovereign put. They have 600,000 Bitcoin. That's the easiest way to get to 1 million Bitcoin.
Well, so how would that work, though? I mean, for people watching that think, like, property rights, hello, I mean, those are enshrined in our Constitution. Would a company have to sell to the government as long as they're willing to pay fair market? I mean, like, could they essentially nationalize a company? I mean, how does it work logistically?
Well, the U.S. has a history of acquiring and paying for strategically important things.
Mm-hmm. They just did so with the rare earths. I mean, the Pentagon deal with MP, I feel like it's not nationalizing it, but it's a strategic move.
Yeah, I think the U.S. government takes a private sector approach to that. So if MicroStrategy is at 400 and the clearing price to do that deal is 3,000 or something, it's probably cheaper to do that than to try to buy 1 million Bitcoin.
What do you think Michael Saylor's reaction to that would be?
That really doesn't sound insane anymore. That sounds like the logical playbook. All right, quick break because all this ties into what we've been talking about. If you're watching this and still leaving your Bitcoin on an exchange, stop. You're playing right into the honeypot trap. And that's why we work with the Bitcoin way. They'll coach you through multi-sig, privacy, inheritance, everything. No tech skills required. They help sovereign individuals just like you pull coins off clown world platforms and into self-custody before the government or Wall Street decides your Bitcoin is theirs. If you're looking to get started, book your free 30-minute consultation at the Bitcoin Way using that link in the show notes. Hey, once you've got your self-custody dialed in, if you ever need to tap into your Bitcoin's value without selling it, boom, you're holding pristine collateral. That's where Ledn comes in. Ledn has funded over $10 billion in Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018. No monthly payments, no penalties, just flexibility. You control your loan, you control your Bitcoin. Collateral is never lent out to generate interest in every 6 months. Proof of reserves. It's simple. If you need cash but don't want to sell your precious corn, Ledn has your back. Check out learn.ledn.io/simply and Simply Bitcoin clients will get 25 basis points off their first loan. All right, now back to the story, but first, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe. I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
I had to do it. But okay, so the US already holds $20 billion plus of Bitcoin from seizures. And after the absolutely brilliant Biden administration that sold most of it, and we know MicroStrategy also holds well over 600,000 Bitcoin. If we put them together, you've got a stack basically second only to Satoshi. And what do you call that? A strategic Bitcoin reserve hiding in plain sight. It's not official yet, but there are risks in trusting third parties, and the structure is already there. The supply, the policy, the rhetoric, the precedent, it all lines up. So let's put this puzzle together. Giga Chad says the US should own 20%. Eric Trump calls him a national treasure. Trump says never sell seized Bitcoin. The government is nationalizing strategic companies, and it just so happens that MicroStrategy controls 3% of the Bitcoin supply. That's not conspiracy, that's game theory. That's America weaponizing Bitcoin as the ultimate reserve asset. So you're asking me, what's the move? Well, how about this? If you want to be sovereign, buy Bitcoin. If you're feeling patriotic, buy MicroStrategy or Bitcoin treasuries. I mean, at the end of the day, you're betting on the same end game, hyper-Bitcoinization, led by the United States. Drop your thoughts and comments below, and don't miss Mining Disrupt 2025, the biggest Bitcoin mining expo on earth, November 11th through the 13th in Dallas, Texas. Meet the legends building the hash power revolution, sovereign mining, AI, and Bitcoin integration. This is where the next wave of Bitcoin history is being written. So grab your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off, and we'll see you at the news desk. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pam by sharing the Sound Money Gospel. Set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. Oh, and yeah, we might have a new show coming your way, so stay tuned. Love you guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.